Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. And in this update, we are going to check out ICP's price chart and see what is happening, I would say specifically in the short term, because a lot of interesting things are going on at the moment. But before that, we are going to talk about this interview from Definity's channel with Dominic Williams, because in here, Dominic talks about ICP's main vision, which is called, self-writing internet. And I fully understand. At first glance, this may sound just another AI word, but when you actually break it down, it's actually quite different than usual AI coding stuff people are talking about. Dominic draws a very clear line between two main paradigms in here. First, there is vibe coding. That's basically what we are seeing at the moment with tools, for example, like GitHub Pilot, ChatGPT, and etc. It helps developers fix typos, write some codes a bit faster, and maybe even generate tests. But the improvement in here, I'm not really sure what is the right word for it, so let's just say it's actually incremental. You still need to know how to code, at least let's say on basics level. Overall, you are still in the loop as a developer, and what AI does in this situation is just making you faster. Now, there is something called self-writing on the other hand. This is where things might get a bit crazy, because instead of a dev who codes faster, anybody, and I really mean it, anybody can talk to an AI in normal natural language, possibly even your native language, and say, hey, I want an app that looks like this and has these features, and AI just does it for you. In this scenario, the system actually deploys a full live working app or service, and it appears on a real URL running on the internet computer without you even saying or writing a single line of code. Think about what that really means. You don't really need to hire devs. You don't really need to learn JavaScript or maybe Solidity or possibly Python. You don't even need to open an IDE. No, you just need to describe your idea, and then bam, there is your app. Now, let's talk about the technicals in here, because that's actually where it gets even more fascinating. You see, Dominic explains that Internet Computer 2.0 is not just about slapping AI on top of the old system. No, they actually built a whole new programming language designed so that AI itself in this situation can generate full production apps on its own, and the language, is called Motoko. Plus, it's actually dynamic. You see, you could literally say, add this feature, and then see that feature go live instantly and updates every single minute or even possibly seconds. Behind the scenes, the system automatically migrates your app data when updates happen, so users never lose anything and there is basically no downtime. All of this is built around ICP canister smart contracts, which makes it much more than just a simple website generator. No, it's actually a live backend and frontend combination, scaled and tamper resistant by design. And here is where it gets into security side of stuff. You see, because in this scenario, apps do live on chain, meaning inside canisters on ICP, they are absolutely tamper-proof. And this means no traditional web server to hack, no cloud provider that could possibly go down or maybe even forced to shut you off. They are unstoppable, meaning as long as the internet computer runs, your apps will keep running perfectly. Also, they are sovereign, and this means you as the creator own and control your app directly on a decentralized network. Nobody, and I really mean it, nobody can deplatform you, nobody can censor your app. You don't really have any middleman, like for example AWS. It's basically combining three very, very important things. Number one, the power of AI built into apps instantly. Number two, the resilience of blockchain infrastructure. And number three, the freedom of decentralization. That is a very, very huge vision, moving from coding to talking and making app creation as natural as conversation. And all of this is happening while keeping it secure, unstoppable, and actually usable in production. Now, let's talk about why all this could be such a massive deal, not just for techies, but for everybody else too. You see, in this 4-minute interview, Dominic points out two very important groups that might benefit the most from self-writing internet. The first group is called regular people and small groups. Picture this. You want to build a private social network just for your extended family, where everybody can share photos, post updates, and maybe even react with silly custom emojis. Or in another case, maybe you and your friends want to spin up a quick esports tournament app complete with digital rewards. Right now, you would either pay a developer thousands of dollars, or maybe you would probably give up and use Facebook or WhatsApp groups with all the unusual problems of ads, privacy, and control. But with the self-writing internet model on internet computer, you actually can literally talk your idea into existence, see it appear on a live URL, and own it yourself. No coding, no middleman. This was the first group that could benefit massively from self-writing internet. The second group are businesses, meaning both enterprises and at the same time also small to medium businesses. You see, you need to think about how businesses get software today. They either license expensive SaaS tools, like for example Oracle, or maybe pay some devs for custom solutions, which can cost you months and also hundreds and thousands of dollars. Now, imagine being able to create a custom CRM or ERP system, something that is tailored exactly to your business, and this could possibly happen in days, maybe even hours, at less than 1% of the traditional cost. That, my friends, is an astronomical amount of saving. But it's not just about the cost. You see, the speed is actually even more important, because instead of waiting 6 months for your dev team to ship a new feature, you could actually iterate daily. And for example, if you need to change how your customer data works, you just ask the AI and it will do it for you, I'm gonna say in almost no time. That is not just slightly better, it actually fundamentally changes how fast businesses can adapt and compete, and it could completely shake up the whole SaaS industry, because all of a sudden you don't really need those big external tools. Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at the global angle, because this might be possibly the most underrated part. Dominic points out something that is rarely discussed. He says this: in many developing countries, governments and businesses don't really have easy access to big developer teams. Why? Because even if you could buy SaaS platforms from Europe or maybe US, it's actually often too expensive, or maybe this is more important, politically sensitive, because it raises sovereignty issues. Basically, it comes down to the question of, do we really want to rely on a foreign company to run our country's data? But here is where self-writing internet on ICP can change everything in the game. Number one, in this scenario, the costs drop massively because you don't really need to hire huge teams. And number two, the security is already built in, meaning apps are live on chain, tamper-proof and decentralized, which means local teams do not really need world-class cybersecurity experts to keep data safe. So all of a sudden, you can see local NGOs in some developing countries build a disaster relief app in just one day. Or maybe like a very small business can spin up platforms overnight, or local governments, for example in Brazil, create a tax payment portal without relying on some traditional platforms like AWS or Oracle. All these projects that used to be impossible because of cost, speed, or security, well, they actually become possible, and that is potentially millions of new apps serving local needs that big global SaaS companies never would have built. And basically, in short, what Dominic Williams describing isn't just AI helping developers. No, it's actually this: AI builds for everyone, instantly, cheaply, securely, and also without really needing you to become a developer first. Now, pretty much at the end of the interview, Dominic talks about a very bold claim. He says, in maybe 10 years, we won't even talk about tech stacks anymore. And this means no more front-end, back-end, database, and DevOps. Instead, it will look like this. Number one, the AI, for example, in this scenario, something like Caffeine, is your developer. You just describe what you want, and AI just simply does it for you. Number two, ICP becomes the runtime and hosting, fully decentralized, tamper-proof, and also unstoppable. And for you, the user, the whole stack just basically disappears. You don't see servers or APIs, you just see the app appear and run live on URL. And that, my friends, is absolutely wild. Why? Because it doesn't really change how software is built. No, it actually changes who can build it, and all of a sudden it is everybody, not just some coders. So why is it that ICP does actually have a decent chance of pulling this off, and why is it hard to copy? First, because ICP doesn't really do what most AI code tools do. You see, those tools still deploy on AWS or some traditional cloud. ICP in here actually runs the code natively on chain inside canisters. So your logic, your data, and updates stay fully decentralized, and this means no single server to hack, no companies to censor your app. Second, you want to remember that Dfinity in here built a whole new programming language and runtime that AI can target directly, and it is called, again, Motoko. This isn't just like ChatGPT spitting out Python scripts. No, it's actually code that the AI writes specifically for ICP's environment, which helps keep it production grade and secure. Third, ICP has real-time upgradability, and this means your app isn't frozen after launch. No, you can say, for example, add this and that feature, and AI updates your app live and safely, and it can even move data around without really breaking things. That's actually super rare in the blockchain space, where updates usually mean redeploying contracts and migrating data manually. Of course, it's not all perfect, I fully understand it, and even Dominic himself at the end of the interview talked about real risk. He talked about three very important points. Number one is that AI still makes mistakes, so ICP has to kind of guarantee you don't really use data when AI rewrites logic. Number two, understanding human language, especially across dozens of languages, is actually very complex. And number three, which might be the biggest unknown, will people actually trust apps built by AI with no developers in the loop? These are the challenges and questions that we do have at the moment, but the plan that Dfinity has is not just to simply patch it later. No, ICP is trying to design around them from day one by combining the AI layer with the blockchain guarantees. In summary, this isn't just AI helping coders. No, Dominic is talking about a world where literally anybody can launch a live app by talking to an AI, and you would get results instantly hosted on an unstoppable tamper-proof blockchain. And if this works, it could possibly do three very important things. One, it could cut software costs by orders of magnitude, which is fantastic. Number two, it could bring millions of new apps from people who were never developers before. And number three, it could make ICP the blockchain of Web3 world, where AI writes the code and blockchain keeps it safe. It is a crazy vision, I fully get it, but it might just be the most interesting experiment in Web3 history. So overall, I do actually think that they can sort of kind of pull this up, but the road to get there, do not get me wrong, is going to be quite bumpy. However, this doesn't mean that they shouldn't try. No, they absolutely should try. You should absolutely expect some bugs by the initial launch. However, overall, again, I do believe they are going to be successful. And that, my friends, is exactly why I am so bullish in ICP, and I really do have a hard time believing that we're not going to have a magnificent bull run in this cycle, because let's be honest, if you want to buy a project in the crypto market, number one, you look at the fundamentals, and number two, you look at the technicals, and if they both look good, well, okay, you do actually have a decent chance of making quite a good bit of money. And ICP in my books meets all the right conditions. Now, let's go on the live chart and see what is going on in like very short term. And we are also going to talk about what is happening in the mid to long term. Okay, here we are. And if you remember, the last time that we talked about internet computer, I think we were around the lows in here. And the idea was that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up, followed by probably an A, B, C flat down, and one way or the other we can expect in ICP in like very short term yet another move on the upside in order to take the highs. And I think we talked about this about 2 videos back. We said these highs are very, very close together. So above them, I'm going to bet there are some liquidities, and the price does actually have the tendency to grab those liquidities and go up. So what happened? Pretty much that scenario. And I want to say this move up wasn't really a surprise for those of you who have been watching the recent videos about ICP, but it also doesn't necessarily mean that we are right now like 1000% bullish. Why is that? Let's go around here. You see, if you want to argue that we have actually hit our final low around this area, maybe this is like a very important support, then okay, you need to be able to find off of the lowest low a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave on the upside. Now, this specific example is an impulse. Rules for it are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4 and in any kind of 5 wave. Okay, this is the key, pay attention. In any kind of 5 wave, wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, for an impulse, we need to be able to find 5 wave into wave 1, 3, and 5. And for wave 2 and 4, we can have many, many different counts. It doesn't honestly matter. Let's say, I don't know, sure, an ABC into wave 4, and yep, a WXY structure into wave 2. Now, let's go on the live chart and see what is going on. And before we talk about this specific area, let's zoom out a little bit more, and maybe it's best to go on Coinbase's chart. There we go. Let's go on 1 hour time frame. So first things first, which one is the lowest low in here? Is actually this thing about $4.2. And can we find off of it a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up? Maybe. You might be able to say, I don't know, maybe like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave. And as you can see, we are clearly having overlapping of the waves between our supposedly wave 4 and 2. And this means that we are not allowed to consider an impulse in this area. So our only options are either an expanding leading diagonal or maybe a leading diagonal in form of a wedge. And let's just put the chart first on regular scale and measure our wave 2 and 4, because that is going to determine whether we are going to have a wedge or maybe an expanding leading diagonal. There we go. As you can see, wave 4 is clearly bigger than wave 2. So this narrows our option to only and only an expanding leading diagonal, which in it, wave 5 must be the biggest wave. So with that said, let's measure our wave 5 and compare it to our wave 3. Is it bigger than wave 3? The answer is, if I just zoom a little bit more, as you can see, by like a very, very small margin, absolutely no. So what is it that I'm trying to say? You see, I'm trying to tell you, in ICP, finding a 5 wave in this phase up is a little bit challenging, and I'm not going to say it's absolutely impossible. No, anything is possible, but right now at least, I think it makes perfect sense to be a little bit patient and also careful at the same time. Having said that, now let's go back on our own chart and talk about the short-term price action. You see, let's say I am wrong and the low is truly already in. Then okay, in that case, I think we need to pay full attention to what is going to happen starting from the current point. First things first, I do think that we are going to get at least yet another move up in order to take this high. Why? Because it seems like that we are having from here 5 up into 1 correction for wave 2, and then maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up into wave 3. This might be hopefully a correction for 4 and yet another move up into wave 5, but that is not really going to matter a whole lot. Why is that? Because this move up coming in like very, very short and maybe in the next 12 hours is kind of predictable. Now, after this move up, what really happens is the key. Are we going to have possibly a consolidation pattern, a slow and choppy move down, followed by yet another strong move on the upside? Why is this a good thing? Because at that point, you might be able to argue, look, these are the sub waves for on a higher degree, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave, meaning maybe the low is already in. On the other hand, what you do not want to see after this short-term move up is a very strong move down without a lot of overlapping of the waves in form of a 5 wave. And why is that a bad sign? Because at that point, well, okay, we are going to argue that these are the sub waves for just a simple ABC zigzag and not an impulse, meaning unfortunately our move down in internet computer is not over. And again, you want to remember, we are only talking about the short-term price action. In the mid to long term, the picture is 1000% bullish. And let's just put the chart back on logarithmic. There we go. As you can see, off of the lowest low, we are having a very strong move up followed by a very slow move down. So makes perfect sense to argue based on the sub waves. This is 5 wave up into wave 1, correction for wave 2, and after it's over, what are we going to have? You know the answer, a massive move up into wave 3 and 4 and 5. And this is exactly why I believe in a beautiful looking bull run in internet computer. It's just the fact that in the short term, we may not be necessarily ready, and even that can be up for debate. All I have to say is this: let's have this move up, and then let's pay full attention to the shape of the next move, because that is going to kind of sort of determine what is next in internet computer. So I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in ICP's price chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones. Goodbye.